And we are going to get started. I just kind of formatted this the way that I usually format, where I just did a Google slide so we can move through everything. And then I put all of the questions that you guys had at the end. A lot of it I already had and a lot of the questions I already had embedded in the training. So hopefully we will be able to just kind of mitigate some of that. Hi, Christy. Mitigate some of those questions in the actual training, but please feel free at the end. We can just kind of open it up. I want to make sure you guys feel really good so that you can get started in the new year and feel really confident. And just before we get started, I want everybody to just kind of open their minds, open their brains. I feel like everyone that is here, this is something that you can be doing. I know, and this happens to me too, we all have that little negativity that pops up that feels like we're not good enough to be taking clients or to be getting work and things like that. And I want you guys to just kind of push that on the back burner for right now and just kind of open yourselves up. Start getting some positive juices flowing because, this is something that I think you can all be doing. And there are ways that we can get creative with it. And I'm happy to brainstorm with you today. This is your time. And so I'm excited about this one. So I'm just going to do a screen share. I will keep checking in the chat. So feel free to post questions. And, oh, that's fun. I can't see. Okay, now I can see. All righty then. All right, pulling up the chat. And sorry, guys. I can't see the chat when I'm in this mode. Okay, well, we're just going to get started, and I will exit out of it from time to time, and we'll address your questions. So obviously today we're talking about how to get work as a food photographer. Training with me today, and what I want to go over with you guys are the things that you can do, why it's really great, how we're going to do it, where to find your people and how to know you can do it, and then we're going to go over your questions. So a lot of the questions that I saw in the chat were kind of in regards to maybe photography wasn't your favorite thing, or photography was your favorite thing. How can you create programs and systems to get work? What are the things that you can be doing to make sure that you have enough work to make you money? And I'm going to kind of go over which each of these kind of moving parts to being a freelance food photographer and recipe developer mean, so that you guys can really go confidently and know how you can be helping people. So the first thing I want to kind of focus on is how I like to position myself in the mindset that I like to be in is, even if you're charging for your services, how can you help people? Because if you really enjoy content creation, I think a lot of us don't realize if we enjoy it. Some people don't actually enjoy it, and some people get to a point where they don't have the time to be doing it. So you're actually helping them, and you're actually mitigating a pain point. It's something that Nicole has talked about for forever, and we're just going to get really specific about the ways that you guys all have strengths so you can create kind of a program. So the first thing you can do is recipe development. What recipe development generally consists of is testing and creating recipes. You can do original recipe creation, where maybe it's for a brand and you're just using their product, or you're helping another person with a sponsored post campaign and you're coming up with your recipe completely on your own. Or you can facilitate recipe creation. I've had people before give me a specific recipe that they want me to make, and they give me guidelines, maybe it needs to be Whole30 or paleo, or not have any eggs in it. And then I have had people before, which this is totally doable too, give me exact ingredients and I figured out the quantities and things like that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can market your recipe development services, whether you just want to like help people get to where they want to be with the recipes, or you know, you just want to create completely new recipes from scratch to take that time off of their plate. Photography, you can be shooting new or existing content. You can couple that photography piece with recipe development. So a lot of times people will hire out the reshooting of existing posts that might be doing really well. It's something that's great to do, especially around the holidays and the new year. So this is still a really good time to be talking about this with potential clients, because they might have really great recipes that I feel like, you know, starting November through like February is really, really a big time for food bloggers. So shooting existing content, which we all know that's good for us, but it's great for anyone with a website. And one thing I just want to go over to with photography, and if you guys want to write this down, that's great. Actually, I'll just kind of, can't exit out of this. There we go. Photography. So sorry, let me go down the chat, make sure you guys are good. So good. Okay. So photography, one thing I want you to keep in mind is your rights to the photos. So if you guys are shooting for someone, you need to work out if you're getting credit for your photography and if they're allowed to post and use your work, and if they need to credit you or not credit you. So either full rights, and full rights would mean that they have the full rights to post the content without crediting you. And if it's shared rights, they are able to share the photo and they still need to credit you for your work. So that is something that I really highly encourage you to work out in a contract. A good way to get your name out there is to negotiate shared rights so that people can see that you're shooting for other people. Generally, it's less money when you're doing shared rights. If somebody wants the full rights to your recipe, like a brand wants full rights to your recipe, that means that they can use it on whatever form of media that they want. So I've had a brand like a year ago, they wanted to use it for pamphlets in a grocery store and to potentially put the photo on like a truck or something. So that would mean that I charge them more, but they don't have to come back to me and ask if they can use, you know, what I am, what the photos that I sold to them. They don't need to pay me more money. So that is something that you guys want to make sure that you're negotiating. I know I talk a lot about contracts because that's really important to have on there. Something I like to do just when I'm talking to someone via email is or in my packages, I have the pricing and it says shared rights next to it. And if they want full rights, then I generally Nicole usually tells me to just like double my rate and then negotiate from there. But make sure that in your contract, you know, somewhere in the deliverable section or something like that, just put shared rights. And then you should have an ownership section in your contract that talks about if they need to tag you, and how they need to tag you if it's shared rights, or if they have full rights to your work that you don't have any claim over them. And the only thing with that too is you can't claim that work as yours. So you cannot use that in like a media kit or a testimonial or proof of work. So just something to be mindful. Do you guys have any questions there? Because I know I just threw a lot of info at you. No, you're good. Okay. Feel free to put in the chat if you have any questions. So another thing you can do, and I know this was posted about in the group, is recipe testing. Now, I have not done this myself, but I know that this is done for bloggers, sometimes like big names. Like I know Ina Garten. Yeah, Jennifer, that's definitely coming up. Like Ina Garten has a few people I know that test recipes for her, and they might not necessarily even be people with as much experience as you guys. So recipe testing, how I would just approach that is, this could even be great for like a brand or like a culinary website or like maybe even a local restaurant or something. You could get really creative with it, but it's definitely a service you could offer. And how I would position it is, just I take the guesswork out of making a recipe work really well. I make sure all the quantities are perfect so that you can just be like really straightforward with it. And, it's a great idea, a great thing to do. So if you're not somebody who enjoys photography, you could offer recipe development and recipe testing. And, and same thing there, recipe development and recipe testing, whether you want rights to the work where they need to credit that you tested or developed the recipe, or you want full rights to go to them. And that just changes the pricing a little bit. So you can also do copy and ghostwriting. You can write blog posts and kind of it ties in down here. You can like update posts. You can add keywords and meta descriptions. You can create roundups for others. Now, this usually does require that you have some sort of login to the back end of their website, but it's a great way to create like a long-term partnership with someone. Cool, I spelled that wrong. But yeah, so you can do, if you're someone that does not love photography, you could bundle your recipe development services with copy and ghostwriting. I would suggest like showing different portions of writing that you've written for other people, or doing examples when you're pitching. I know I've had people come at me and have said, I've only seen your blog though, and you have like a really specific writing style. So I would suggest putting together some pieces and maybe doing some like mock write-ups for other bloggers. If you have like posts on other sites, like Ellie, I know you do. You've done this before, and I think everybody who has written for me on Pure Taste, you can use your work for this kind of an example, because you've written like as you were not writing for yourself. So that's a really great service to include. And that's helpful, especially if you're really good at, Ellie, I know you're really good at SEO and keywords and writing descriptions. So that's definitely a way that you can like beef up your packages by including those things. If you're feeling a little bit like you're new to the whole photography game and you want to provide an extra offer for somebody. So do you guys have any questions about different ways we can get creative with like food photography and recipe development as like a side career? Okay, seems like we're good. I can see your chat when I'm not in the full screen. How do you not overwhelm people? Giving them these options. Um, so Amanda, what I would do is when you approach someone, I would, and for me, it's just a simple Google folder. I keep track. I put like my work, I put photos, I put links to my work, and I just put like a description of my services. And I just bullet point out different things that I do. So like you might send somebody a pitch email, just like you send a brand, or you might send a brand a pitch email and just say like, hey, I also offer recipe development, content creation, and photography services. I'm happy to talk with you about that. And then if they kind of take the bait, say, please look through my packages. And you can just bullet point out, like I offer recipe development, recipe testing, ghost and copywriting services, and like I don't think you would call it technical writing, but maybe like rich keyword descriptions and meta descriptions. I don't think you're going to overwhelm them, and putting it together and like a little bit of a package, kind of like a pricing sheet. You don't even have to include prices at first if you don't want to. That's up to you. But just kind of putting it all in one place as like a bulleted list would be a good way for them to kind of pick through. I think one thing that we all tend to do is decide what people do and don't need before we talk to them. Like you might assume that because someone is smaller, or they look like they have everything like really together, that they don't need a certain form of help. And I think sometimes if we just ask and let them know that we offer different types of services, sometimes they're really, really just glad to know that you offer other things, and they might be really willing to put it on your plate and not their own. Does that help, Amanda? Okay. If you write for big sites, you can also negotiate to add those posts to yours. site. Yes, Bonnie, do you mean, I'm not sure I understand. Is this a question, or are you asking if you can add the post to your site? You can unmute yourself if you want. Okay, so I'm just going to try and answer.
Oh, sorry about that. I just got messed up with the buttons. No, what I meant is that if you write for bigger sites, like let's say, I write for US News, so I negotiated with them to also put those stories on my own blog, so that this way it kind of helps your portfolio to show that you're writing for these other sites as well.
That's great. Yeah, and I guess you have like a shared right negotiation for that. The only thing that you guys have to
SEO.
Yeah, you just have to be careful with recipes with SEO, but you can always like add the photos and link back to the other site. There's totally ways to get creative with that. I totally agree. And you can use those bigger opportunities to really show off that this is something that you do. Totally agree. Good point. So are you guys good if we move on from the what we can do? Does that answer your questions, that there are other things to do? So there's other things to do besides photography, and there are things that you can add on to bulk up your packages if you're a little bit nervous about starting out with just photography. So now I'm going to talk about why this is so great. Doing work as a freelance food photographer and recipe developer is awesome because you can make money right now. This is something that I've always done. I probably started guest posting about 3 or 4 months into my blogging career, and then probably had my first paid client like 2 years ago, and I've just really kept going ever since, and it's opened a lot of doors, and I really like it because obviously I'm sure everyone knows that my site is definitely not one of the largest out there, but it's allowed me to make a full-time income. So it gets money into your pocket right now. And I also really like that it takes pressure off of me. I feel like I don't always have to stress about my numbers. Like if a post doesn't do well on Instagram, it's not the end of the world. If I don't have my highest page view month after month, it's not the end of the world because I still have paying clients. Another thing, I know Gleneth always preaches this, that we should be spending like more time promoting our own content than creating it. And one thing, if you focus on the content creation for other people, it's a lot less work for you because you just make it, and you either make the recipe or you take the photos or you write the copy and you send it off. And that's really all you have to do, except send an invoice or ask for a testimonial or do some follow-up. Yeah, you have to do some legwork for having to get the clients over to you, but it's a really great way to exercise your creative energies and to really create a sustainable career, because Nicole always is preaching that we really don't know what's going to happen with social media channels. So it's awesome to create sustainable things like another revenue income source, as opposed to ads or just relying on influencer marketing strategies. Oh, hi. Hi, Nicole. I didn't even see you pop on. So how we're going to start doing this, because I know that is like the hot topic. How do you get those clients? How do we do it? How do you start attracting your ideal people? And where is this magical network that people find all these opportunities in? So right now, I'm just going to tell you, at least I have not found one. There's no like magical unicorn place where all of these blogger photographers, and brand photographers are hanging out. If there are, I mean, I would love to know myself. But I think the best way to start is just to put it out there. Put it out there in the groups that you're in, like our group. You never know if there's someone in there. I know we kind of talk about not spending a lot of time in share groups, but if you are, just kind of mentioning that it's something that you do. I know I need to rewrite my Instagram bio. That was something that Nicole and I were talking about yesterday. But make sure it's in your Instagram bio. If it's a service you want to offer, it should be in your media kit. Even if your media kit is generally geared toward influencer marketing, make sure that like even on your brand sheet, that you're including, like your brand pricing sheet, make sure you're including that you also do uh, freelance recipe development for their purposes and services. So just really start putting it out there, and put it out there to yourself that it is something that you do. If you journal, write in, I'm a brand photographer. This is something that I'm going to do. Because if you start putting it out there and start saying it, you're going to get more confident and you're going to attract clients. Um, and another one thing that Nicole's encouraged me to do is when I am doing it, like, if you've ever shot for me for Pure Taste, you can put it in your Instagram stories that you're working on a recipe for somebody else besides you. People think it's really interesting. I was doing that yesterday. I got a ton of questions about it. So just putting it out there that it's something you offer. Another thing that I had an idea about yesterday is if you're working with a brand and you're maybe making some of your packages as an extra add-on item, maybe even include in there that you'll include an exclusive recipe for their use. So for their exclusive use on their website and maybe their email list, and for them to use on social media, that's a good way to kind of put it out there. That's another service, and that it might take some pressure off of them. You might add that into your package, and then you follow up on your deliverables, and then they think, oh my gosh, this was so much easier than us having to create the content in-house. This is almost worth more than, a sponsored post, because we have content and we didn't have to do it. So put it out there. Another big thing that is super, super important to me is be professional wherever you are. This is something that I've preached from the beginning, because a couple of my clients are really, really long-term clients that I've had for like over 2 years now. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with just being really professional. Make sure you submit on time, edit your work. Sorry. Follow the guidelines that they give you to an absolute T. No excuses. No, hey, I forgot. Here's, a one-off of something. Even if it's a free content creation position, if you just over deliver, are super helpful, and you're really professional, people are going to want to come back to you just because it was really easy to work with you. I've been on the phone with brands before, and I'm sure everyone in this group is really wonderful about it, but I've gotten comments like, it was just really nice to work with you, because I knew everything was going to be on time, and I'd like to do it again just because I really don't feel like going through interviewing a bunch of other candidates, and I know I can rely on your work. So that being said, what I want you guys to do is make a list of everyone you've ever partnered with and go back to them, especially if you feel like you've over delivered on a past campaign. So go back to them and reach out to them about this content creation service that you're thinking about, that you are offering, and say that you have slots in 2019. I know everybody here has partnered with at least one person. So you can go back in all of your lists. I'm sure you have a spreadsheet, and just put it out there that you have this service and you're just offering to help, because in the new year, they're going to be really busy, because it's a big time for the food and health industry. So that kind of ties into this offer to people you already have a relationship with. Most of my successes have come from just talking to people that I already know, and just getting some people that I already know on board. And, this could be translated, an idea I was having last night, because everyone seems like they're a little bit confused as to how to get those relationships. Well, can you do it? Can you trade off with maybe someone in this group? You each create a recipe for each other and then give each other a testimonial. So you put it out there that you're each offering these services. So just work with people that you have a relationship with, brands that you have a relationship with, and start there. Don't be afraid. You like that idea? Yeah, I was thinking about that last night. It could be a good, I know sometimes people partner for roundup posts, and it could be another way to kind of highlight services. And yeah. So anyway, so that is a great way that you guys can start doing it. And another thing I really want you guys to be a little bit more cognizant of is planning your content out. So I created a video for the planning party. And once you guys finish the planning party, you'll get access to it. But it's just all about planning out your content. If you want to do this and add this as a main revenue stream, you kind of have to, I'm going to give you a little tough love, but you're going to kind of have to get it together a little bit with your streamlining your processes. So you're going to have like specific days where you're creating the content and then writing it. However you want to do that. Yeah, get out of your comfort zone. I know it is really hard to get out of your comfort zone, and kind of, making sure that you're offering things to people that you already have a relationship with is a good way to just kind of do this as a slow shift very comfortably. And then you kind of build up a little bit of a portfolio. But I want you guys to plan your content out so that you're more easily able to do more content at once, so you can be able to offer services to maybe more people. Or you literally have to, it helps so much, doesn't it, Emily? You have to schedule out your days. I do the same thing, and I actually, this week is a little nuts, this week and next week, so I actually have down to every hour planned out with a 30-minute like little notification. But plan your content out. Try to give yourself a little bit of a cushion of time when you're working with people. Don't be afraid to say, I have a 4-week or a 2-week or 3-week or 2-month, whatever you want to do. I have this lead time and this is what I'm working with. Sometimes that's harder with larger clients and larger bloggers because they might work differently. But try to plan your own content out just so that you can be really, really in the game and able to do all the outreach that you need to do. And another thing you can do is offer larger packages. So we can come back to this what you can do portion here, and you guys can create some package options so that it's not just like a one-off, I'm shooting an old recipe. You can offer like a larger, okay, bye Nicole. You can offer a large package with maybe like 4 recipes that you can reshoot and maybe some updating of some copy. You can include meta descriptions so that it's easier to kind of get somebody in there for a longer period of time. And that kind of cuts down on the amount of work that you have to do for yourself. So Nicole kind of promotes backwards blogging. So one thing that you can do is create your package options. And then we're going to get to pricing for a second. But so create your packages, get your price. And then once you figure out how much revenue you want to make from this, work backwards. And so you say, okay, I want like 1 paid photography client a month and I want to make $500 from it. Or, okay, so I want to make $500 from photography each month. So how many clients would you need to get to make $500? And then work backwards with reaching out and pitch those bigger packages so that you don't have to work for so many different people at once. Does that make sense? Do you guys have questions there? We're good? Okay. So where to find these people? So we're going back to go for who you know. I like to look at people that I think might be in a busy season of life. Maybe if you've noticed that they've seemed a little bit stressed, you don't need to like say this to them in a message, but if you've noticed that someone's looked really stressed or overwhelmed, they might have landed a really large partnership, or they might have like a really big piece of media coming out, or they're launching, they're launching something really large, yada, yada. It might be a good idea to reach out to, having a baby. Yes. So reach out to them to try and create some services for them. You don't have to be super direct, like, hey, I noticed you look super overwhelmed, but I thought there could be something I could help you with. So brands, I feel like almost half of the brands that I reach out to in the past, when I've mentioned that I do recipe development and photography, and this is why some of us are so big about getting on the phone, I quickly realized that their goals are not exposure and that they want to have content for themselves and their own websites. So I would encourage you guys to make sure you're getting brands on the phone and feel out what they're feeling. If they kind of are giving the whole, we don't really have a big influencer budget. you can quickly kind of come in and say, well, oh, I see that you're looking for content for your own web pages. Are you guys looking for marketing materials? Because I can create photography content that would look really great for your consumers, and you might be able to use a different portion of your budget or something like that. You can word it how you would like. But sometimes different portions of budgets are allocated differently. I know Jess Larson actually told me that because she used to work for a large corporation, and sometimes they kind of branch out like influencer marketing and dollars for pieces of content. Like I said before, I created photos and a recipe for a produce company before that used it as materials that they had in a grocery store for their consumers because it was kind of like a weird vegetable. So they wanted resources for buyers. So once you start to find like one or two people, you can ask for referrals and testimonials. And this is something that I've done. I've done work in trade for a testimonial. So if it's somebody that might not be able to pay you, I'm not saying this work is not worth money, but if you're really running into that a lot, you could always be like, hey, I have like one free slot to give up. Can I give you a photo in exchange for a testimonial? And can I use your photo and link to it into like my kind of media kit slash, resume folder? So go back to all your past clients. Like I told you guys already, I want you guys to think about maybe partnering up and seriously be confident. This group is a really talented group of people. If you're thinking that you can do this, you can do it. You can try. You don't need the fanciest gear. We will get to that because I know, Jennifer, this might be something that we need to talk about. But be confident in your abilities. You don't need to be, not everybody needs to be the best of the best to get work. I would encourage you guys to like look closely at different people that you look like you have similar looking work to them and reach out to them and just put it out there that you're there to help. If you come in it at this helping mindset, it feels a lot less like, hey, I want your money. So I hope that helps you guys a little bit. The truth is there's no special place to find these people. It takes a lot of outreach and it takes a lot of effort. I would say just as much or more as they get brand partnerships. But once you really start to get rocking and rolling and you get those few people and you get those testimonials and maybe start to get some referrals and your work starts to be seen, it gets a little bit easier. It's still, I still have to reach out so much. I do a ton of outreach. That's how I've personally been able to do it. And I know a lot of other people have done it that way. But some people have people come to them. But it's all about what you put out there and putting some intentional work into it and willing to be doing some outreach just to start it. So your questions, and then we can just chat about this kind of stuff. So upgrading equipment. Jennifer, I know we want to talk about this because Allie, when I'm doing outreach, is it sometimes a cold? Yeah, it's both. If I ever do a cold outreach, I make sure to like really dive in. I mean, it's never anybody that I like haven't heard of before, really. But if it's a cold outreach, somebody that I'm not really like, I would say friends with, I make sure to do like my homework on stuff that they're working on or like accomplishments that they might have had. But yeah, I do both. Does that help a little bit? Perfect. So upgrading equipment, how to know when and how to save your money when you feel like it's time. So Jennifer, I feel like you might be feeling the limitations of a crop sensor camera, which we've talked about this before, but when you're shooting with a DSLR, you're still in a crop sensor, so you're not able to use like the full, I would say kind of the way I describe it as like the full performance of the lens that you have. When you use a full frame camera, your frame actually is like bigger and you're just able to use, more of the capabilities of the lens that you have. What I will say to you is, I don't have the Canon 5D. I have a 60. I kind of opted to save a little bit in order to spend my money on courses and to spend some money on lenses. I just kind of got the camera I needed to get me into a full frame. That might not be what's best for you. You might want to stay ahead of the curve. I found that for me, it was worth it to save the like $1,000. I almost bought a really almost brand new. I think I actually almost bought the new, I'm sorry, I used 5D from a local camera shop. They will tell you how many like shots the camera has in it, so you can tell how much it was used. I would be a little bit wary just because I think some of us, myself included, have not been studying photography for a very, very long time. So I would be wary of buying used from like eBay or Facebook Marketplace unless you like really know what you're doing. So I would totally recommend going to your local camera shops and finding out if there are like used options, or maybe just like getting into a full frame if you're going to go with Canon. I have the 60. I love it. I feel like for me, it's enough for me to get some really cool lenses. And then when I'm like, having some like really, really high dollar clients, I might think about switching in a few years. But I feel like the need to have the top of the line equipment is not absolutely needed when you're starting out in this. And I personally think your work right now is good enough that you can get some gigs as you are. I think everybody here can get some opportunities, even paid opportunities, right where you are right now. So if you're really feeling like you're busting out, and I feel like from your comment, you're kind of starting to feel like you're busting out at the seams. That's how I felt this June, and I upgraded. Okay. Thanks, Amanda. See you later. But if you feel like you're busting out of seams, and from your comment, I kind of feel like maybe you're feeling that way. So it might be time to think about it, but don't feel like you're the only one that's not in a full frame camera. So you just can't do it. I sometimes, feel that feeling too. I still have a broken $20 tripod that I desperately need to upgrade. And sometimes I feel like that with it, like I just need to buy it now. But in reality, I'm better off like really honing in on like my photography skills and working on my composition and keeping going with some of the courses that I'm doing. Obviously equipment does help when you're getting the gigs. Maybe set a goal for yourself. Maybe say, okay, once I get like 3 paying clients, I'm going to upgrade because I know this is a sustainable business and I need to invest in myself. So maybe you do it like that. If you feel like you need to upgrade, but like you're not sure. So go really hard and get 2 or 3 clients. And then once you do that, then go ahead and give yourself the permission to upgrade, if that's helpful. Or do you feel good? Do you want to talk about that? No, okay. So funny. I just sent a bunch of shots to a client with a mix of Carapics and yeah, that's great. Yeah, if they want to do iPhone. Some people have really good luck with iPhone photos. I'll tell you that if you're gonna want to shoot for like really large bloggers that are shooting with a DSLR, you're gonna need to shoot with a DSLR if you're shooting like for them because you want to kind of mimic their work. But totally, if you're working for brands, and you want to use your iPhone and it seems like a vibe that they might be really liking, that's definitely something you can do. So for deciding your pricing and how to shift, I also want to make sure you guys are using this resource. So I want you guys to be using the resources in Shift University as well. So you log into the member vault and then you come down here to perfect your pitch. There's a pitching yourself with brands and a pitch template. And I believe partnerships. I was looking over this last night. Sorry. Okay. So there's like partnership tips and some guidance. Here's, you can calculate your reach and engagement. Well, that's more for pitching, but there are some guidelines with dollar signs, and here are some really great resources for pricing yourself. Yeah, actually a lot of this is kind of saying what we already went over. So what I'm going to tell you guys though, for pitching, for pricing yourself as a food photographer, So things to keep in mind. Obviously the rights to the photos, if they want full rights, you're going to need to double the rate, or at least try to double the rate that you've come up with. But decide on an hourly rate. You're way underpricing yourself. Okay. Let's start on an hourly rate and then think about how long it takes you to do it. My rate for recipe development, especially for bloggers, is lower than my sponsored post rate. It doesn't have to be, and it's not that way for everybody. It doesn't have to be that way for everyone. It's just that I am still at the point where I'm growing that side of my business, so it's a little bit lower. And it takes me less time because I don't have to do all the promotion and blog writing and things that I have to do for brand partnerships. So I would go ahead and find your hourly rate and say it takes you 5 hours to make it, and then that's your rate. So like, say you want to charge like $25 an hour, and then, I can't do math, but whatever. It's a long day. So that would be your rate, and just go with that. If they want full rights, it needs to be more. But generally a rule of thumb that Nicole tells me is like, once you get like 3 to 5 clients, you maybe want to bump your rate up like 10%. So make your rate, sometimes people might come back to you and be like, I can't afford you right now. And you could say, okay, well, like, what would feel really good to you? What would you be able to do right now? And can we come to an agreement? Because I just like want to get a couple clients under my belt. And then once you get a few more, you can like increase that rate a little bit. I would say and guys, like, please take this as a grain of salt. Your photography level definitely plays into this here. The amount of time and the amount of money you've invested in your photography or your writing or, your recipe development. If you've been to like the Culinary Institute or something like that, you might need to charge a little bit more. But like, I would say like baseline starting rates for like recipe development and photography, and I'm talking like baseline, these days are like 125 to like 175. So I hate giving numbers because it's so different for everybody else, but I would just kind of, to put a number, because I know a lot of you guys are looking for me. I would just say from my experience, I've seen that that's kind of like a low line. If that feels high to you, that's okay. If that feels low to you, that's totally okay too. Go with your experience. Go with like how long you've been doing this. There are a lot of different factors. So I'd encourage you to just come up with that hourly rate and just put it out there. Set for a certain amount of photos. I would say like no more than 5. It's really, really hard. There's not like a blanket rate for like the industry that everybody knows, at least not to my knowledge. And it's totally different for other people. I mean, I know people charge a lot more than that. Some people do it for free. That's what makes it really different. That's what makes it really difficult. So I would encourage you to like really sit down with yourself and get serious and think about what you need to make, and then think about how much time you have. So if you want to make $500 and you only have time for 2 clients a month, then you need to charge $225 for each package, if that makes sense. Like, if that's your truth, and that's your truth, and you roll with it, and that's what you do. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. But yeah, please, please, please make sure you guys are using these tools in Shift University. And she definitely has some like numerics in here that you can go through. Stuff for like highly engaged audiences. And some of this is for sponsored posts. But like something that I've done is like looked at my sponsored post rate that I've gotten, or like what I want to get. And then like I'll lower it maybe a little bit. Or like maybe if you're, creating content for like a really large brand, you charge a little bit more. And then if they definitely want full rights, you need to be, especially for brands, you guys need to be charging like double. Because yeah, that is your work that you have done. So please log into Shift University, go through this pitch stuff. The pitch template that we've discussed before still applies with food photography and recipe development. You should know who you're pitching to. You should say nice things about their brand, especially if it is like a product brand. You should go ahead and do your work. Not saying that it's necessarily easy, but when you get your system down, it can be like a really great place to find income. So style, how to create your own and be able to shoot for other people. So one thing that I would encourage you to do is something that I do is I kind of try and pitch to people that look like they have sort of similar styles to me. Like I don't pitch to people personally because I'm not great at this right now. I don't pitch to people that have like super, super high end dark moody photography. I don't have the props and the wherewithal to do that. So I just don't pitch myself to them. I'm sure if one of them wanted me to do work for them, I would certainly figure it out. Something that I'm feeling now is I need to kind of diversify my props a little bit and have some different color boards. So it might be something that you need to think about in the future if you're getting a lot of work. But just kind of see if you can go for people who create work that kind of looks like they're your own. You do need to be able to kind of tailor your services and be kind of somebody who can identify what visual elements they really like to use. So really dive in when you're pitching them. Say like, I love that you use wood in all of your shots and those gray backgrounds are absolutely beautiful. I love that you do that. If they can see that you're really like looking at their style and are like, oh wow, this person really gets what my vibe is, I really want to work with them because they understand me. I had somebody just do my redo my cookie cookbook, and she was a graphic designer. And she came at me and she looked at my website and my social media and was like, I feel like your vibe is very like similar to like the Magnolia company, like in Joanna Gaines. And if you guys know me like personally, you know that I'm like obsessed with her. And so the fact that she went through all of my stuff and came at me and said like, this is what I feel like your brand vibe is, really meant a lot to me. And I was like, okay, take my money. So that's something that I would recommend with style. Make sure that it's great to have your own style, pitch people that look kind of like they have the same brand vibe, and really take notice of those brand vibes that you think that you can recreate and tell them that you're noticing it. Bonnie, do I have favorite props? I like those vinyl backgrounds. I know Ericsson WordWorks is a really great one. Those are wood backgrounds. I personally, if you like vinyl, you're not looking to spend a lot, I have gone in and gotten some tiles from like Home Depot or Lowe's or the hardware store, and they've been like 99 cents. I know some people use like vinyl backgrounds that they've bought off Etsy. There's a couple companies. Ericsson WordWorks is a big one. There's another one, I'm blanking on the name. Personally, I only right now get really creative with what I have. I have a marble slab from Sur La Table. I shoot for a lot of clients at like Woodville. That's it, Taryn. Thank you. Ink and Elm. Yep. Woodville. Thank you guys. I'm someone that is running low in the prop department for a food photographer. I've made my own things. I know Sarah Fennel with Broma Bakery just came out with a like gift guide for food photographers, and she has some really beautiful things in there, like a really great like linen napkin company and things like that. Those are great things. Hers is really great to look at. So if you want me to link to that, I think she had some really nice items in there. But I know Ericsson WordWorks and Woodville are some really trusted brands that people really like to use. Yeah, medium surfaces, I guess it's called replica. They're really lightweight but good quality. Oh, okay. So you guys are talking about the same one. I'll have to look into that. Yeah. See, you guys have more boards than I do. This is something that I need to put on my Christmas list. But it just goes to show you do not need to hold yourself back and have like every single different color before you start pitching people. So do you pitch sponsored or recipe development? So one thing that we were talking about earlier is if you like pitch sponsored or recipe development, I would try and get on the phone with brands, because I feel like you can email back and forth for years, and you can get an idea of what a potential client is needing within like the first 5 minutes of a conversation. So if you guys just like try and get on the phone with these people, and if it seems like they're like really gung-ho about like posting stuff on their own Instagram, you can very politely say like, hey, actually, I feel like my recipe development and photography services would be a much better fit for you from what I'm hearing about your goals. That's something that I do, and I've gotten quite a few jobs like that. I got a really big contract this summer because I created content for somebody and then they decided they wanted to write like a cookbook within their company. And I did all the work for that. Just because I was willing to get on the phone with them and listen to what they need. They really didn't care about my numbers. They just wanted the content. I'm wording for reshoots. I just come from, I think coming from like a place of help for this is great. Like, hey, can I help you? Can I reshoot something that's like really popular so that it does better in search for you? I know it's super important and hard to find the time to do this. So that's kind of how I word that. I'm going to stop my screen share. And yeah, that's how you approach it with your latest client. Yeah. I think that's like a really good way to just kind of say, hey, I know you might not want like my full big package. You might not want me to do all this recipe development because that probably doubles your time. So maybe your rate's a lot higher for that. But like, if you want me to reshoot a couple of things for you, I'm really more than happy to. I think with this kind of thing, it's important to be personable. It's important to be yourself. It's important to go after people that you know, brands that you know and you trust. I'm sure there are brands that you guys are close working, like work really closely with. Maybe you're a brand ambassador for, maybe you're an affiliate for them. And they always say they don't have a way to work with influencers besides an affiliate marketing relationship. Well, maybe you would propose that you create content for them that they can use for like handouts and things like that. Like I've never personally pitched them, because I just don't really buy their product anymore and forget about them. But I'm thinking right now, like Siggy's Dairy, I know that they have like an ambassador program. And, I wonder if like they need people to, and they send out stuff a lot, like maybe they need people to help send out those little like handouts or something, like those little like coupon-y recipe cards that they send. Like maybe you could pitch, like if you have a relationship like that, like, hey, I see that you send this stuff out like every month. Thank you so much. Like, who does that for you? Can I help you with that? Like, is that something I can offer for you? So just coming in at that place and just being really confident with your asks, channeling that like you're good enough to do this because all of you are. And yeah, it's okay. It's okay to start small with your pricing if you're feeling really nervous about it, I would say, but then make sure once you're getting clients, you're increasing your rates. That's what I want for you all. Because I know it's hard to put a big dollar and sign in front of it. And then you feel like you're nervous when you're asking. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't if you feel like your work is worth the dollar sign that you really are like feeling deep down. But if you want to just like beta test it out, ask for some testimonials, partner with each other, and then like really hit it hard, that I would encourage you to do that too. So does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to talk? I know I've taken up like almost an hour of your time. No, we're feeling good. Oh, good. And like I said, I want you guys to go through the planning party this week. And then I want you to watch my content planning video so you can get like a really good game plan of how to batch plan your content so you can be serving more people and be more efficient. Oh, gracious. I'm sorry. Somebody just came to my door. This is great. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I'm happy to help you guys if you want to chat. And seriously, like feel free to post that stuff in the group. That's what it's there for. And I guarantee you that other people are thinking about upgrading as well. But I'm happy. Like, I mean, if you want to chat with me when you're like at the camera store, I'm here. What is the best way to ask me a question? Post my questions for me in the group. I'm always checking in. I have like set times that I check in the group every day. Yes, check in, post a question in the group because chances are somebody else has a question. I'm happy to answer it in there. And then even if I don't get to it right away, it's not one of my check-in times. I can get to it. Sorry, someone just got home really early. But yeah, so I really hope this was helpful though, you guys. Yes. Oh, sure, Taryn. Yeah. I hope this was helpful. It's something I'm super passionate about. I want this for you guys so much, that you have more freedom with your income And I think you all can do it. So 3 cheers for me. Thank you guys. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all the things, because this is our last training for 2018. Huh. So thank you and have a great day.